Nope, pressing all the wrong buttons. But hey, I wouldn't be Rifkin if I pressed all the right buttons. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the WCS Season 2 qualifiers for Europe. Today, I am joined by Zombie Grub, and spawning here in the lower right corner of the map, in this fresh new best of 3 from the team Mindsanity. One of the most recent pickups, actually, just worth noting. It's going to be Serral.
In the top left, as the blue Zerg, it is Fnatic's Zanster.
Alright, so Zanster is a pretty talented player. I think we know a lot about him. Serral, I think, has been kind of on the, I don't know. I wouldn't even go as far as to call either of these guys unknown, if we're going to be honest. But I think he's a little bit less hyped than Zanster is. But a lot of both of these players' strengths, I feel, come in their ZVTs. I don't necessarily think it's their ZVZs that shine through the most. So this could be an awesomely awkward, amazing Roach Fest.
Well, it has been a long time since I watched Serral's ZDZ, but when I did watch it, it looked very, very impressive. I believe it was still after the Muta era of Heart of the Swarm too, so I don't know if ZVZ has really changed that much that he would suddenly be bad at it.
I just hope to God this doesn't become a series that involves anything close to what the Muslim and Stefano showcased yesterday, because that was 40 minutes of Swarm Host, something I'm not wanting to cast, not necessarily today.
Well, we rarely see Swarm hosts in ZVZ. It is viable and people have been experimenting with it, but yeah, I don't know. We said that once though, and on Frost, whoever it was, and the guy went Swarm host anyways, and I was like, you kidding me, right? Like, you're not gonna actually drag this on for 40 minutes.
Well, actually, I like that Heavy Rain game we cast recently with Atreus and Pig as well, where it kind of went Broodlord Swarm Host, but then Pig said, no, you know what, that is from Hydrolisk, forget it.
I must not have cast that one.
That was the, oh no, that's right, that was Zeph, I'm sorry, that was the Masters Cup, my bad.
The other chick.
Yeah, the one other girl in esports, and I get you two mixed up. Way to go, Riffy. No, but actually that was pretty crazy, because yeah, on Heavy Rain, Pig and Atreus did go at it, and they kind of set up, they both had Swarm Hosts. I think Atreus had gone for a couple Broodlords, and Pig, rather than going for the full commitment, actually went for a Nidus Worm, trying to exploit the immobility of the Swarm Host and send a bunch of Hydras to start taking out tech really early. It's actually a really cool way to deal with it. I've not quite seen that, because yeah, the often response is Swarm Host versus Swarm Host, but more commonly than either or any of that is, of course, we see Roaches a lot in ZVZ. And one of the things I really like about Roach versus Roach is when you do see one player actually utilize tunneling claws. I think those can be one of the greatest advantages you can find if used correctly in this matchup.
That's something I still haven't seen a whole lot of. It sounds interesting, and I remember there was a time where the recent buff was gonna go down, or the patch or whatever, and they're like, no, don't buff it because it's already so common on Korean Ladder, the Roach Burrow, the tunneling claws. And I'm like, well, great, another month, we're going to be seeing this all the time in tournaments, and I did it.
Well, I guess some of the more frequency of where I see it are the people who are really expertised in ZVZ. So the Koreans, Peg, a lot of the Australians. You don't see it so much in European play. There are some players who'll do it, but the thing is, and it's not even maybe necessarily about the tunneling claws, but it's more about the control of the Roaches, segmenting 4 off behind the natural mineral line while a big attack goes off. And while you've kind of equalized forces and Roaches, you've also picked off 20 drones at the same time. I mean, there's lots of different ways to influence the way this matchup ends up being played, and it doesn't have to necessarily be one particular way, but ooh, gets a drone kill with these Lings.
First blood.
And a very good
That's
scout.
Yeah.
Sees everything, including that the guys are still on gas, so he should expect, I would assume, well, actually, it used to mean that anytime a guy was still on gas after speed had started, it was like, oh god, he's gonna all in me. And it doesn't really mean that anymore. And
I kind of miss those days a little bit
drones.
Though. I know that was all that was happening for a long time, and it kind of got boring. But now I kind of miss the Zerg knife fights, the crazy bailing busts, and
oh, I definitely do.
Snoot versus Targa was one of the funnest ZVZs we've ever seen, because they did that and they went to round 2. And why is he killing the creep tuner?
Oh, it's blocking the Evo chambers.
Yeah, I just realized, yeah.
So, he waits the last second so the other creep tubers could finish.
That's kind of cool. Let's look curious on if that was a misclick or not.
Yeah, very specific. I was gonna say, if Zanster, he had the bailing that's down, it was scouted. I think that's why he canceled it, because this is a map where I'm surprised that Serral went for gasless. It usually depends on a very strong wall to hold up against those early Ling attacks, and it's very hard to get a wall down here because you have to wait for the creep to go. And he had actually messed up any possibility of a wall until they fixed it, right? So maybe missed opportunity, you don't know, because these gases builds look stronger than they are at initial glance.
Oh wow, 2-base muta. Whoa, we didn't see that. We were busy looking at everything else but the gas. Zanster gonna be coming across this pretty hard. This is kind of funny. Mutalisks have kind of fallen out of fashion because of how good spore crawlers are and how good players have actually gotten at reacting to mutalisks, but there's kind of this funny fact where, because mutalisks have fallen out of fashion, I think players may have also gotten a little bit out of practice, so sometimes you see mutalisks end up being a little more effective than normally they would be. This is a situation though where for Zanster he's got to identify that Serral's going roaches, because you only go mutalisks until you realize your opponent isn't also going mutalisks.
Yeah, you only get 10 and then you go ahead and transition yourself. Serral does have to recognize this is happening though, so
nice
he can
round.
decide if he so he can decide if he wants to attack with, you know, those 10 roaches in response and try and do damage while, you know, letting yourself buy time to defend against those mutas.
Well, Lings can't really get much done. I think he realizes this too. I would kind of actually I would like if he would chip down those back rocks, just since he knows these Lings can't do much other than run around the middle of the map for the time being. He may go for a dive on the third, but you know, that's a lot of roaches and queens out here in the front lines to defend. These Lings are not going to take this base down, and I think Zanster knows this.
The longer he keeps the roaches back here and the queens off of creep though, the higher the chance the mutas are going to do damage, I feel. You know, Serral's not focusing on scouting, although there is an overseer going in right now. He's going to see the mutas just as they pop.
One of the things too, it's you know, you bring up that point, it's actually really worth noting. A lot of the times when mutalisks get out on the field, one of the biggest counters is the roaches hitting before the mutalisks are out, and then the mutalisks have to stay at home and spend forever trying to kill a bunch of roaches. Serral having these at home is great defensively versus these Lings, but unfortunately won't get a lot done versus the mutalisks. Now that those are revealed, I'm hoping to see a bunch of spore crawlers. There are 2 coming down here at the natural, a third one even, to just cover all
in total.
Yeah, well, just really covering all of his outlets right now. I like this a lot, though. This might look like an overreaction, but you can never be too careful. You never know just how much Zanster is going to dedicate to this, and he is actually going to go for those weapon upgrades.
And swarm hosts.
Dirty.
Dirty. I feel like this is the more popular way to get into swarm hosts in ZDZ, though. He talks about how it is becoming more and more of a thing. But just isn't really, it's not really like super common yet, but well, you know, mutas in his swarm house as opposed to mutas into roaches.
It seems like a joke, but you watch, say, Stefano versus the Muslim yesterday. I think Stefano had like 10,000 people on his personal stream. There's a good 6K on like Take TV as well. I mean, people are seeing that this can, like, that style can work. It's not just like, okay, I'm just gonna try it for the first time in a WCS qualifier tournament. It's like, okay, I've practiced this a little in the past. I watched Stefano execute it perfectly. Maybe I'll give this a shot. And Serral is also going for an infestation pit right now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that is for his own return swarm hosts. We'll see in like 40 seconds. I don't think he's scouted the swarm host quite yet.
There's nothing to really give this away either, because they're not units that exactly rush across the map in the first place. This very could possibly be for Serral going for a quicker hive tech as well, but most likely he'll be going for his own swarm host here, I imagine.
He did see the infestation pits, so
pathogen, no pathogen glands infestors.
That is weird. Because
this isn't 1 or 2. This is 5. This has to be. I mean, if you go this early, for those who are wondering why we're like questioning this, you don't start with enough energy to fungal growth those mutalisks. You actually have to take the time to build up the energy. Pathogen glands is what lets you pop out with an infestor and instantly fungal.
I think it's because he's not looking to catch the mutas. That's not what he's trying to get them for. He's just getting them as a perfect endgame composition. Roach, Hydra, Infestor. The pathogen glands not getting it is weird because there's actually no reason not to get it unless you're in a very big hurry to get those infestors. Like an attack is literally coming and you'd rather, you know, chance the fact that you can buy enough time to get fungals than actually wait before the pathogen glands. So that is odd.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, given enough time, I guess it went in there. But now the swarm hosts are revealed. Hydralisks and roaches can kind of dance around them for a little bit. And King Sejong Station, this is a massive map where, let's not forget, just up here in the upper right, there's only about 3 pathways, you know, only into getting around the swarm host. But there's also this left side with the rocks that maybe if all the swarm hosts are busy on the right side of the map, you plop down a night swarm over here outside the rocks, break them down, suddenly you're in the natural, suddenly you're top of the tech in the main. And that's really how you shut down swarm hosts as well. It's cutting off their ability to be reproduced.
Usually, we see them in CVP, so I'm going through all like the steps of a Protoss player. Like, you get the Warp Prism, get the Colossus. I
Yeah, it's
don't know
kind
what to
of.
do with Zerg.
Well, it's not too much different in that regard, but a lot of what ends up happening with Zergs are like abducts from the Vipers, Spore Crawlers being on the front lines, so if Brood Lords or Counter Vipers are there, you can make sure that they zone back, but as we see, the Locusts are a little bit too strong. Actually, I wonder, was there attack speed? 0.8? Yeah, because the Hydrals had that attack speed buff, so I guess they're no longer like free Hydralisks, but almost.
That's always good. Link counterattack is going to be kind of effective. The Spine Crawler is pretty perfect. Actually, Roaches are on their
Queen's
way.
got level 2 armor. There's no upgrades on these lanes. They're not going to get all that done.
A Roach counterattack also happens in Zanster's third. Doesn't get too much done as the units were already there. And of course, Muta's going to be able to
You could burrow.
pretty effective.
There's no detection.
Oh, she's just not to. Oh, no.
I thought I heard the barrel, but it's just the corpse exploding apparently. Sounds similar to my ears. But Serral's getting group spines, and I did go for the muscular augments first, and I like this choice, recognizing that he was going to have to be mobile with his army. That was going to be the priority. Well, Pathogen Glands still has not been researched. Ugh, I don't like that. He's got those infestors with enough energy to actually get the job done now. Dude, I wonder...
He needs a remax, though. That's the problem.
Hang on, what if you neural parasited a swarm host? Do you get their locust, and like, do they stay after the neural parasite wears off?
Ooh, that is a very specific...
I love like these weird situations we find ourselves in StarCraft where it's like, look, we know so much about the game, but we don't know that one thing. Okay, so here's the downside to the Locust, guys. As we see, when you've got a very little going against a lot, the Roaches and the Hydras can push through this, but not with the Infestors on the front lines. You only lose one of the Infestors. A Fungal grows off. Kind of a waste of a Fungal. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, again, Link's going to run around. These might not have a lot of upgrades, but this is a full wall off. And the Spine Crawler and the Queen of the other base should be able to keep this pretty safe for 10 days. But looking to push in this, trying to use the Fungal Growth for that little bit of extra DPS he needs to push through these waves. We've got some Changelings actually trying to physically block Serral out too. Kind of a cool move, but there's Spine Crawlers and just way too many Locusts. No way he's got enough Fungals.
No way. I was like, okay, maybe this is easy. Maybe you just break through. Nope, definitely not. Definitely not. You have to find another way to attack in here. Zanster is in fact getting for those Vipers, and Serral going for the Baneling Nest. That one ZVZ we did cast, the guy not going for Swarm Hosts did get a Baneling Nest. We missed the Baneling explosion on the Swarm Hosts.
Oh, that was right. Johnny Rico, I think that was, right?
Yeah, don't do that again, Rifkin.
Yeah, well, I mean... The Baneling's a kind of cute idea, but I think the reason we see Baneling Nest available is more in prediction of the Hydralisks than anything else, at least out of Zanster. But the Baneling Nest coming down out of Serral, yeah, you're right, could be kind of just that, let's try to get them all in one big move. You know what could be really cool, actually?
Baneling bombs.
Exactly, Bane Rain. They'll fly on top of the Locust. The Locust can't shoot upwards, and there's no Spore Crawlers down, just a ton of spines. Granted, the Mutalisks could be a threat, but if he Baneling bombed the Swarm Host, that would be the most creative and cool way to deal with them I think I've ever seen.
Dude, wouldn't it be sick? Okay, the Baneling bomb's already sick. Going over the Swarm Host, getting all excited, and the Vipers pull the Overlords away.
Oh, that'd be disgusting. For those who are like kind of like, these noobcasters don't know what they're talking about, these are armored units. It doesn't matter if they're armored or light. If you have enough Banelings, you can kill anything, and the splash damage they have is huge. But Serral is going to be investing in these, that's for sure. He might also, I hesitate to worry that he might try and use them to break through the Locust wave, because that would be a huge waste. Because even if you take down that full wave, there's no way you've got enough DPS to clear this many Swarm Hosts before the next wave pops. Maybe if this was like 10 or 12, but this is 28 Swarm Hosts currently out for Zanster.
The big problem we're seeing right now is that Zanster is having difficulty getting a fourth. Now, his units last forever, so he doesn't really have to, constantly spend, so we will still have a big bank. But hopefully, eventually, Serral will be able to not out macro him, but out economy him. Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
You know what? You should be able to contaminate Swarm Hosts, I'm just saying, from the Overseers.
Stop them from building.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it works. I mean, why wouldn't it work? You literally gunk up the works, and they're full of these pores, right?
I remember I looked up what Contaminate does, because there was like a question, and unfortunately I didn't get the answer to, but I learned something really interesting otherwise. I just figured it is. I'll look it up again. This isn't a Spore Crawler, so these mutas, you probably forgot about them.
Oh, he gets the Fungal on the Vipers, too, so these might go down, these precious units, but... unfortunately, with the Blinding Clouds on the ground, the Hydras just can't find a way in here. There's so many Swarm Hosts to clean up. He's done quite a bit of damage to this, but the Spine Crawlers look like they're going to keep him back. And these Fungals, oh, these dirty Fungals, coming out of Zanster this time, going to hold Serral in place.
Zanster remaxes with 13 more Swarm Hosts. That's cool. Serral still has a big bank himself.
We can discuss how he's having trouble taking another base, but he is technically going to have these free units, so it's not as
Yeah.
necessary, I guess.
Ultralisk.
The space going to fall is going to really hurt, though.
Ultralisk is so weird to see.
Okay, so I've actually seen this before. I can't remember who it was. It was in a Zotac Cup, that's for sure. And it was one of the Korean players. And Ultralisks actually are not that good versus Swarm hosts, but they will kind of perform that role where they break through the waves. Like I described the hesitation of like, I hope he doesn't use, you know, the Banelings to break the Locust waves to push on through, but the Ultralisk can perform that same job, and if any of them live to move through, they're going to deal a ton of damage to those units that are choked up and, you know, clumped up. But Zanster just realized this is happening. This wave of Locust is already rallied down here, so the rocks being broken down will not catch him off guard.
The thing about Ultralisk is that their AI is so dumb.
It's true. They have the worst when it comes to moving through any sort of buildings, even if it's spine crawlers.
I just imagine they're like are all excited about them taking down the Locust, and like there they go for the Swarm host, and then they just like spaz out. Yes, yes.
50 Banelings. But you know what's scary? There's fungals already available for Zanster. All it takes is like 2 good fungals, and these Banelings become absolutely wasteful.
That's why you put them in the Overlords. We would win this game, Rifkin. No, we wouldn't. I'm just kidding. But
we're too busy playing Terran. We're used to we're like completely spoiled by our dropships. But that's a lot of Banelings, and unfortunately, what would have been really cool is if we could have come in from the left side with an attack on them, but we see these Swarm hosts in the perfect spot. There's Spine Crawlers to the north, Spine Crawlers to the south. Everything has this covered. And looks like the Mutalisks actually finally taken care of. These were, I gotta say, those were a great asset out of Zanster. He knocked down a base with them, he killed a lot of drones. They weren't like the focus of his army, but they did pretty well.
Yeah, this is so insane. What the hell? Okay, so we're gonna see how this works out. I was gonna talk about how Zanster, like, how does he ever push out? But I guess the whole point of it is that he doesn't feel like he has to. Like, he's gonna win by Serral just constantly trying to push in.
I'm so glad we don't have caster cams. I got the biggest, dumbest grin on my face. I'm just sitting here like, this is gonna be the greatest failure or the greatest success of all time. But
okay.
If there's one player, honestly, like, truthfully, if there's one player I can see making this work, it's gonna be Serral. I mean, he's always been one who knows to think ahead, that next step type thing. Hydra's on the front lines, he's trying to take out this. The Infested Terran's gonna buy a lot of time too as the Banelings trying to roll in here. Is there enough? We got an attack segmented towards the left, but there's already Locust forwarded down there, so unfortunately not gonna happen. But Banelings do get around the army on top of the Swarm host. Oh, but they go through the Spine Crawlers instead.
That was weird.
He still takes out a lot of this, and the Ultras are still standing. Can you imagine if there were Queens at the front lines with this, spamming Transfuse on these beasts, on these behemoths?
Was that worth it? He didn't even go for the drone line. 2 Banelings.
2 Banelings could have annihilated this. 3, well, I think it would have been more like 4 to get everything, but still, yeah. That was rather unfortunately. How many Swarm hosts even died? Not a lot. 29 so far this game, but he just makes more.
He has the money. But it does come down to the fact that Serral has more money. Zanster is running out of gas.
That is true.
Problem. So Serral, you know, this could have been really dangerous, though. I mean,
well, hang on. If Serral does that exact trade in the exact way every single time, and Zanster can never take a 4th, Serral will win this game. Because Serral's also got the option to expand, something that's, as you point out, not available to Zanster.
Right. Zanster's game plan, I feel, was just like hope that he keeps on attacking in, gets frustrated, and then gives up or something.
Round 2 on the way. More Ultralisks on the front lines. I'm a little worried this time though, because one of the biggest assets he had going to that attack, it wasn't the Banelings and it wasn't the Ultralisks, it was the Hydralisks safe and sound behind both of those.
More Banelings. You always need more Banelings.
Awkward. Locusts will get here just barely in the nick of time. Then during Locust upgrade, man.
Just barely not working out.
That is a lot of
Zanster is also
Banelings.
down to 33 drones.
Yeah, I mean, well, that makes the Baneling hits even scarier. Like, if those had been able to roll in and take out the drones, Zanster would have had even half of what he has now. But moving forward, here comes the Ultralisks and the Banelings once again. And my hat off to Serral, literally, as he chose not to respond to this with Swarm Host, but instead very creative play.
I wonder what the mass changelings are for.
I think it just helps block the Locusts from going forward. Scouts as well, provides vision. Like, look at this hold position on the Spine Crawlers. He tries to choke him in. No, never mind, not even hold position. But Banelings are just going to roll in here all like crazy willy-nilly. That fungal going to kill this first wave of Banelings, but there's more behind this. You don't simply stop 50 Banelings. But he's not going for the drone line again. Goes around this, goes for the Infestors. Kills almost all of the Infestors. The Ultralisk now pushing in. The Locust going to finally get this up, and looks like Zanster says, I don't have a 4th. GG, Serral, ladies and gentlemen. He shows you how to beat this stupid composition.